Good evening, alumni and friends of Norwich University, and welcome to the town hall. I'm very glad so many of you could join us tonight. We've done several of these with different constituency groups, but we wanted to make sure we did this late in the day in my really second full week in office here, just to make sure we got to talk early. Really want to get to know your thoughts and give you a level of comfort now that I'm sitting in the seat and running the school. I'm looking around the room. We have some of our key leaders, and very, very grateful to have so many, and so grateful for the state of Norwich. Really remarkable to be inheriting an organization like this. It is a remarkably healthy institution in every conceivable measure, and I will not take that for granted, and I promise to preserve it. So I want to have this initial conversation with all of you to get to know each other, but also just to set the tone for how things can be between us and how I'm hoping they'll continue. And a lot of national, international crises that are being faced by our republic and by extension our university. And I want to make sure you know where we're headed and how we're approaching many of them. I want to also gauge what's on your mind. I'm going to go through some comments of things that you need to hear from me, and then I'm going to go through the wonderful set of questions that were emailed in, and then we'll leave plenty of time at the end for live questions. So as you're watching and listening, please start feeding your questions into the chat. And I have some folks next to me. They're going to pull the questions down and write them down and make sure we can get you an answer on the fly. And if we run out of time and can't get to the questions, or if I can't get you an answer because I'm just not I'm not knowledgeable enough to provide the answer at this moment, we will email them out so everyone has full understanding of where we're going. All right, so first and foremost, I'm the first new president of Norwich in 28 years. And that is truly remarkable. And I think a lot of you saw the change video, the relief video that Rich Schneider and I did. I can't replace Rich. I can only follow him. And in military parlance, I offered him my relief, and he said he was relieved. And we had a nice moment, and we got the old Norwich forever for the first time. So because of the great work of President Schneider, his team here in the room and on campus, and all of you, frankly, this school's in great shape. I don't have to roll in here and be a change agent. I did say in the video, if you didn't see it, I followed people that were highly competent but deeply disliked, and people that were liked but not really effective as leaders. Rich was loved dearly by all, and he was also highly effective. So it's a wonderful change for me to take over somebody like Rich, but I will keep the ball moving forward. We'll do great things together. A lot of schools are struggling like right now. A lot of universities and colleges, maybe the COVID and the other surrounding issues is a forcing function to maybe make a correction in the saturation of colleges and universities, and some will close. And it's a very sad thing. It's something to celebrate. But because of all your work as a wonderful alumni base, and because of the leaders of this school's great work, Norwich is in a remarkable position by every measure, like I said, but also in comparison to other institutions, really probably in the top 5% or so of current operational capability. So thank you for all of that. So like I said, we'll do some foundational things. We're going to launch forward. I know there's a lot of questions about what I plan to do in however long I get to stay. I'll go over that in some detail. But I really want to hear from all of you, some ideas you've been holding on to, things that you've been kicking around or have talked amongst yourselves about, and you can share them with us, and we'll make sure we get to talk about them. A lot of the best ideas will come from you and out in the country, out in the world, from our wonderful alums, and we're hoping to hear from you about them all. So probably the first thing I should talk about is my philosophy about higher education. I did a lot of work in the field, and those of you that don't know me very well, I've been in the Air Force. I'm actually still on active duty. I don't retire till August 1st. They allowed me to leave active duty early. There's different permissive TDYs and terminal leaves. But basically, I'm still on active duty, so I'm going to bring a lot of operational relevance to the university, and I'll make sure we can kind of press that into the curriculum and the student experience, especially the Corps cadets, obviously, but the civilian students as well. Other things about higher ed. So I've been in a lot of different universities, different capacities, right? I've been from a visiting lecturer to an associate, assistant professor, associate professor, full tenured professor, and then a director of the research center or the Character and Leadership Development Center there at the Air Force Academy. University of Maryland, Michigan State, small college in New Jersey called Stockton College, a state school, and some others. So I got a wide breadth of experience in higher ed. and it let me form kind of my style and where I think we should go as an institution to be very healthy going forward. I don't believe it's a business. Some presidents, I think, have misspoke and misstepped over the past, really during the crisis, last couple of years especially, but the last few months. And I don't believe that's the right perspective, right? We're not a business. We're a calling, we're a noble calling with a noble mission of developing young men and women to be leaders and good citizens, but we do have fiscal realities. And in that's kind of my approach. It's a calling and a wonderful mission, and we're blessed to be in this world, but we do have fiscal realities we have to be careful with. So I will ensure we remain financially secure as we move forward and try to grow us to a place of even greater security. Internally, for campus environment, I really believe in a family atmosphere, a collaborative atmosphere. College campuses aren't always the most healthy culturally. I want to bring a high level of health here, sustain the high level of health where it exists, and improve it where it needs some help. So in the room with me, I'm looking at some leaders, including Dean Clements and, of course, Dr. Affinito. And she and I have already had some really in-depth discussions about how to make some things hum along a little bit better. So just for general communication style, obviously I'm doing this. I want to make sure I connect with you all at a very personal level. I'll be very open, direct, and honest. I won't duck your questions, and I expect you to speak openly and clearly with me about what you love, what you think needs help, challenge me in areas you think we're underperforming, and then we'll have some arguments, I'm sure. But that's a family thing, right? We'll argue, and then we'll move forward together in the family. And I think it'll be great for us. I have a high level of risk tolerance, so I believe in building agility into our organization, taking risk. It has to be an acceptable level of risk, but it's a time for bold moves, right? In the 21st century, the way the world's moving so quickly. I want to go fast, and I want to take some risk. It doesn't mean non-compliance. We'll always stay compliant as an institution. We're not going to invite some scrutiny on some areas, but we'll take some risk, and we'll be very bold. And we'll lead. Right? I mean, this is a time that the world, our country especially, is looking for some leadership instead of a lot of yelling and a lot of maybe underdeveloped emotions. So we're going to lead with some rational approaches to things, and we'll influence the national debate. And we'll find areas to grow, right? I don't just want to survive. I don't just want to, sit on our laurels and slap ourselves on the back about how great we are. I want to grow the program. I want to grow the brand. And let me preface everything else I'm going to say with this. Anything I'm going to say about where I want to take the school is in no way a criticism of where it is or where it's been, because it's been doing so well for so long. So none of this is a criticism. We can only do more because of the state of the school now in its current healthy state. So I'm excited, and there's a lot I want to get through together. And if we have a discussion and a debate and we come to a conclusion, and I move out in a direction that, we'll never get unanimity in the decision, but I'll be very clear and communicative about why we went in the direction we did. So the priorities as I assume the office, especially for this fall, really top three, very clear. Going to first address the challenges related to COVID and get to an open in-resident campus experience here in fall of 20, when some other schools are not taking that risk. But we've done a really, I think, beautiful job here well before my arrival, with Dr. Affinito sitting here next to me, and the effort she has led, and the different task forces and the different committees, the things that they have done to get this school open in the fall. It was a heavy, heavy lift and took a lot of really significant effort. So we're going to go ahead and push forward with opening. There's a lot coming out from the governor's office, but partly was because of us pushing them. President Schneider became the governor's kind of lead for a task force, and talk about a blessing for Norwich. And just let me address that really quickly too. Rich Schneider always is welcome on this campus, and he's welcome to call me anytime, give me advice. We talk all the time. Because he's a gentleman, he will give me all the space that I need, but I don't need any from him, because his heart is always on this campus. So I have zero threat from Rich, and he knows that. But as he's working for the governor, he can advocate for Norwich in a very pragmatic and very effective way. So he is doing that, and we're having great effects. So really, priority one, open this campus and keep it open in a way that's very safe for our students, faculty, and staff, and keeping it open as long as we can. And that's going to take some serious leadership, but we're ready. Number two, kind of move forward and understand and posture Norwich for really expanded success in the coming years. So we can fight current crises, we can be in crisis response mode, but we can't lose deliberate planning and very strategic planning on how to grow the school and grow the brand and launch new programs. So we'll do that simultaneously, but really ensuring that we're successful and relevant academically, organizationally, and fiscally. That's priority 2. So priority 3 is really immersing myself in the culture here. You know, I've told everyone I've been related with Norwich for really 30 years since my first day in the Army. And a lot of our officers, I was an armor, I was a tanker, and a Cav Scout later. A lot of our officers were Norwich graduates, and they were phenomenal. They were wonderful, and I got to serve with, for, and under a lot of Norwich graduates in the course of my career, and they were always great. So I want to see what the secret sauce is. I want to get inside and see really how we're doing things, why we're so successful, find out why we're successful, and expand and further resource those programs, and really not screw anything up that's working. So I know a lot of you have themes of other questions were, you know, what traditions will you preserve? How are you going to make sure we don't lose our identity? You know, we're not gonna. Norwich is Norwich, and it's a great brand, and there's great traditions here, and we're gonna continue those because they're highly effective. Obviously, if there was a lot of problems, I wouldn't be able to do that, but there aren't. So we're looking good in a lot of ways. So, 2 biggest topics of the day, and you deserve to hear from me on both. First, of course, the COVID pandemic and where that's probably headed, and number 2 is the civil unrest in our country that's tied to police misconduct and racial tensions across the spectrum of our culture. So I'll talk to you about both of those really quick. So first, COVID. Like I said, there's been reps from every part and constituency groups of the on-campus community and the local community and the state community as well, and government, public health, et cetera. And they've worked very hard to make sure we can open and operate. So Governor Scott said we're going to open Vermont higher education institutions for the fall 20. Now, it's a great message for us, and that gives us some maneuver space, as we say. But he didn't give us details. He didn't tell us, hey, you can open up, and it's up to the university presidents to decide how their campuses will look. I want to say Mother May I, but basically we're asking for permission on how we're going to operate the campus, and we're making our cases. Obviously for the Corps of Cadets, for the Rooks, the Regimental Ball, the Homecoming, all those things are really on the front of our mind. We have unique needs at Norwich that other colleges don't have. But we did get the word we can open, and we're going to really push hard for the specifics on that. We hope to be able to publish them late June, early July at the latest. And we're also, of course, working with our employees to make sure if people need accommodations, we can work with them. We don't want to put our faculty in an uncomfortable position where they're going to feel at risk. We're going to follow CDC guidelines. We're going to socially distance, wear the mask where we're supposed to wear them. We're going to do things internally with some flexibility, but have to follow the rules put out by the state. And if faculty aren't comfortable because they're immunocompromised or are caring for somebody that is, we'll find accommodations to make sure they can still instruct in a way that makes them feel comfortable. So we're going to open, committed to a in-person, on-campus experience for the fall. There will be some nuances, but that's how we're moving forward. The second issue that everyone's keeping track of is Black Lives Matter, the social unrest, the police misconduct, all these things. So I've been very careful on the messaging from the university on this, and I've just been very clear what we're going to be as a campus in this really bizarre and very tense time. Norwich will be a fully inclusive campus. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to have civil discourse. We're going to discuss things openly. There won't be indoctrination going on here, and we're going to control the communicative environment in a way that is respectful and open. And we're going to teach our young men and women how to have civil dialogue again, because our country has lost the ability to do that. So that is my goal going in, but really my desire is that the Norwich name is out front as the voice of reason and enlightenment in some very tense times for our country. We have a lot of experts here. Some of our young men and women that are students right now. I'm thinking undergrad, but Bill Clements is in this room, and maybe some of our graduate students. It's a great time to get them out front to say, this is what we're doing in Norwich. This is why we're different than everyone else yelling at each other. We're having the conversations, and we're going to be leaders of the future. And I think it'll be a great way to advance the brand and make it much more appealing than some of the alternatives that are being shared out there. All right, so I want to make sure we get to all of your questions, because I know there'll be quite a bit. So I'm going to go through your questions you emailed in, your questions, I'll read them out loud, then I'm going to offer my responses. Then we're going to go live for a while. We have, I see they're already stacking up. That's wonderful. So we'll take the questions as long as you have them. We'll have to stop at about the 1 hour mark, out of respect for a lot of different competing priorities. But we'll do the full hour, and I'll leave myself the last 5 or so for some closing comments. So with that, I'm going to get to your questions. Okay. I'm not going to read the names of who offered them, just out of respect, because I don't want them to fill on the spot. But someone asked, actually a 3-time grad, it looks like. So how are you and your family adjusting to your new home and role? So I appreciate an easy but very personal one out of the gate. So showed up, obviously in the middle of a pandemic, really had to go to self-quarantine, received my household goods, and it was 3 different shipments, and they lost one box, wound up in Arkansas, and that box had all the parts to my furniture, so it was a sporting time. We got to learn some basic carpentry on the fly there. But we love the home. Obviously, Woodbury is spectacular. The facilities, people here have been wonderful. The town, we didn't want to get out and be visibly out of the home, but people would stop by, put things on a porch, ring the doorbell, and run. But very welcoming, really wonderful. My daughter, so I have 4 kids. One's in Louisiana with her partner, about to be a senior at the Air Force Academy out in Colorado. He went back 2 weeks ago. My daughter is a freshman at Rutgers, just finished freshman year, about to be a sophomore, and she's on distance learning because Rutgers closed and may or may not open in the fall. And she's staying here with us in Vermont, and she's having a wonderful time. And my 15-year-old son is here going to the local high school, and he's already met some kids he's playing guitars with, and we're playing basketball and hockey in the driveway every day. But we're having a really wonderful time. We've been fully embraced by the community. The Norwich family has treated us beautifully. We're very, very fortunate. And as restrictions are lifted, we're looking forward to getting out more and more about. But thank you for asking that question, and give me a chance to introduce my family real quick. What's my vision for Norwich in the next 10 years, should we remain that long? I'm going to ask you to excuse my aggressive response here, but I'm planning on staying for as long as the board will have me. But my vision for Norwich is that we use our current position as stable and effective and launch that into the next level, right? I want everyone in the world to know Norwich University. I want to launch our programs in a more aggressive way, increase our online presence, launch some new programs. I want to get some more corporate partnerships. What's coming in the future? Some of you heard me talk about this during my town hall. There are strategic areas that our country has fallen behind in. We haven't been behind anything since Sputnik. And now we're behind in all 5 major areas, and they're highly technical, but we can offer a lot for each of the conversations about all 5 areas. And I think Phil Soucy's probably on the line. That poor guy probably heard me talk about this 100 times. But if we want to stay relevant in the future, we have to start building now towards what will be the critical 3 to 5 year, what's going to be at the forefront of everyone's mind and industry, and what's going to attract investment in our school. So I think we already are the best senior military college. I want to be the best senior military college with a wider gap between number 2, but I also want to be known as one of the best universities in North America, if not beyond. And I have a very aggressive plan of how we're going to do that. But my vision for Norwich in the next 10 years is using the current platform of excellence and stability to launch it at the next level. And I hope you all will join me on the journey. Okay, the next a question about the honor code. It's a proud hallmark of Norwich University for generations. The word honor is a prominent feature of every Norwich ring. Most alumni wear proudly. How would you preserve, protect, apply, and teach the principles of the honor code? All right, so this happens to be my new academic wheelhouse, right? So I have a bachelor's, master's, PhD, moved through criminology, PhDs in terrorism and political violence. But then about 6 years ago, I changed my academic focus to character development, leadership development, organizational health, climate, etc. And the core component of all of that is integrity, right? Without integrity, you have nothing. Without your name being preserved, you have nothing. And that's all honor. You must build your reputation, you must preserve your reputation at all costs. And really my last job was the Center for Character and Leadership Development. I was the department head, and then we changed the structure of the center because we were very successful and moved it up to a university level center, and I was the first director of it. But all we did was integrity, trust, and that all comes under the umbrella of honor. So the honor code here will be preserved and advanced, and we'll figure out ways to get it ingrained in every part of the experience here at Norwich. Okay, something very specific. What is the current ratio of Corps cadets to civilian students? Do you anticipate a substantial change in the near future? Second part first, no, I don't anticipate a substantial change. We're a senior military college, and that will be our force mix. We will always have the Corps of Cadets here as our core purpose, and the rest will build around it. And it's not we shouldn't view civilian students' presence here or our online presence here as in competition with the Corps of Cadets, because while those are successful, it props up the Corps, and those other programs are better and more appealing because the Corps gets to help advise it. So the Corps is the center part of our mission. I won't lose sight of that. But to get to your question directly, academic year 20, we had 2,600 students. 1,530 were in the Corps of Cadets, that's 60%. 700 civilian residential, 365 commuter. So 60% currently is Corps of Cadets of our in-campus, of our on-campus community. This coming, it's down to 58%, but we're going to start addressing how to recruit into the Corps more aggressively. So I'll always push and advocate for the Corps. I'll get out there and start recruiting in the right areas. What we're doing in Denver is kind of our Western flagship. I'm going to be out there a lot. You're already telling my very first act after my announcement was speaking at the Junior RTC Ball in Denver from quite a large, there's 9 different RTC affiliates, but I was their awardee. I awarded their Cadet of the Year. And so we're going to tie in with the junior RTC communities, feed them into our Corps across the country. There is a problem, many of you are aware of, that the Northeast is bleeding out college-age kids. We have to start focusing in the West and Southwest. So part of my job is going to make Norwich into a national brand. It's already a national brand, but we really need to get some more student representation from other parts of the country. So the Northeast is getting much younger, and the birth rate has not been there. And about 2026, there's going to be, it's not like a drop-off, it's a cliff. And the college-age kid population is going to be nowhere near where it needs to be to sustain our school. So I'm going to have to get out there and really beat the pavement and say, hey, come to Norwich, it's a special place, here's why it's special. And I got to work on the parents too, right? I need to tell them, send your sons and daughters to us, we'll make them ready for the world. So we'll do that, but we have to get out of we need to always have our base in the Northeast, that's where we're located, but I need to aggressively recruit from the other parts of the country. Okay. All right. Next question. Oh, last thing about that. Colonel Wolf just retired. If you're worried about the strength of the Corps, he's now our Director of Admissions. So we just had our Professor of Naval Sciences, who is obviously having in our, that department is going to be our Director of Admissions. He will understand my intent very clearly, and I'm sure we'll carry it out. All right, next question. Will all students returning to the Hill be required to show evidence that they have been recently tested for the coronavirus? What about a plan for taking temperature readings in the dorms and with day students? So the short answer is those are all great ideas, and they're all on our table. We're waiting on the guidance from CDC, but especially the state of Vermont. So Vermont's going to tell us what we have to do, and once we see what we have to do, we can move maybe more aggressive if we have the space for it. But I'll tell you, there's also a pragmatic approach to this too. Some schools in Massachusetts were told they have to test every 3 days 100% of their campus environment. It's going to be a $3 million bill. And I want to respect the endowment. I want to watch our bottom line, et cetera. I want it to be, above all, we will have a safe environment on the campus. It'll be safe for students, faculty, staff, and our community. And we'll figure out the right way to test to make that happen. Okay. As Norwich has become an international institution, what protocols are in place for the return of our students to the Northfield campus from abroad? There are several, like those from Republic of China Military Academy, that spend 4 years on the Hill earning their degrees and commissions. So we have our International Center, our IC. We have 2 full-time employees in there that are highly effective and very gifted. They're working with all of our foreign students to facilitate their return. If they can't return because of either politics or safety or travel restrictions, we are going to hold their places. So say, for example, as a foreign student, they're supposed to be an incoming freshman in fall of 20, but they can't get here. We'll either receive them in spring of 21 or fall of 21, whenever they're allowed. But basically, we're going to hold their place. So we'll honor their admissions, their acceptance, as whenever they can get here. So hopefully they can come. If they can't, we're going to honor that, and we'll get them in here as soon as we can. That's going to be an issue that'll be much less under our control and much more from federal and state government. Okay, another one. Our class is entering the old guard this year. It's the class of 70. Given the pandemic, many of my classmates have expressed concerns about returning to campus for homecoming. What's the plan? So, we want to have homecoming, we want to have regimental ball, we want to have parents' weekend, we want to do all the things that our community is used to having. But we're not going to be in control of that. We have the school open. If we push ourselves too far and we violate the trust with the governor's office, he can tell us, and he would tell us, that we're going to have to close the campus down. So we want to avoid that. We very much want to stay with our traditions. You know, what about Rook reception? What, you know, and all the different things that go along with your first semester here as a Rook. And we're going to do as much as we can within the confines of the rules given to us by the governor, because we also want to be able to come back in the spring. And if we push him too hard and we violate the trust, we won't be able to come back in the spring. So we're going to be careful. We're going to do everything we can. Our alumni office, as you all know, is spectacular, and they're going to work on a lot of alternative scenarios just in case we can't. We want to have something enjoyable and meaningful for the class of 70 especially, and our other alumni groups that are going to have reunions. But we got to be careful with over-promising and then being restricted, because we don't want to ruin the relationship. So keep an eye out from our alumni office, and they'll start getting details out as soon as we have them. You know, this virus environment's going to be very fluid. So there might be a vaccine comes out, then we can do more. There might be another strain of the virus that hits, and we have more hotspots and another flare-up, and then we can do less. So it's going to be very fluid. We'll get the information out to you as often and as clearly as we possibly can. What will Norwich's focus be post-COVID? I think I've already covered that, but I'll just say in summary, you know, return to the previous levels of excellence and to the sense of normalcy, deliver our really remarkable and very unique curriculum in the way it was, with some improvements that we found through this more modified delivery platforms, and then to find new areas of excellence that I can go find resources for, and then how we can advance the school. So really the short answer is get back to excellence and expand where we decided that it's appropriate to do so. What is Norwich's plan to integrate entrepreneurship and innovation programming into the university's curriculum? So right now, I've already done the deep dive and had the meetings. I really believe innovation and entrepreneurship is actually threaded throughout our curriculum. Norwich Chapter Next addresses that pretty aggressively. You know, if you weren't keeping track of some of the wonderful accomplishments of our students in those veins, you know, we just, some of them created and developed these inflatable solar panels, which were given an award by NASA as the way to get power to our new, to the program Mars landings and experiences. I mean, that's pretty remarkable. Norwich solved a problem for NASA, and we're going to start trumpeting those kind of things. So I already expressed my high tolerance for risk and our desire to build more agility and responsiveness into our curriculum and our operations. I think that's in the same vein of your question, but we will have it, although we already have a high level of excellence now. Will we consider establishing doctoral programs? So it's come up a few times. I thought about it. I will tell you, helping to mentor young men and women for the last 5 or 6 years in my professional capacity, there is a major saturation and maybe a maturity in the market of PhD programs online. I'm not against it, but I want to make sure we're stable and that we're highly effective in other areas first. You know, this initiative in Denver, our Norwich Pro programs, the CGCS, and our wonderful graduate offerings. When all that is at the level we want it to be, and it's funding itself through perpetual excellence and all those things, I think we can evaluate awarding PhDs. But that is going to be a significant effort. I want to make sure we're stable in other areas first, because the better we are in the other areas, the easier this will be and the more the brand will be sought. But there might be a march of saturation that we'll have to correct, and after correction will be a good time for us to move in. So I'm not saying no. It says, will you consider? The short answer is yes, I'll consider, but that's probably a couple of years out. All right, due to the most recent experience of online learning, I feel as though we are on the cusp of some huge changes in how we educate our young adults and their interest in attending expensive private institutions, and parents willing to pay for this. How do you intend to keep Norwich relevant under the newly developing paradigm? So I believe we're going to be in a good position. You know, we're not like every other private school. Every other private school has niches, but Norwich is a very unique brand. Yes, it's an expensive private school. We want to get that under control as well. But we're going to continue to adapt our curriculum. The online instruction and hybrid models of delivering content is going to continue to be evaluated. Dr. Affinito and her teams are always looking at better ways to deliver content. CGCS does remarkably well in really staying with modern delivery platforms. And when we really had to shuffle in this past semester in spring of 20, CGCS, through their online experiences, were able to bring best practices to our undergraduate faculty, and it was a really wonderful relationship that proved to be highly effective. So we will be adaptive and agile, and we'll figure out more ways to be more effective and respond to these young men and women. The Board of Fellows will continue to be critical moving forward. Many of you alums, thank you for your participation on that program. Board of Fellows bring entrepreneurship, they bring the real world connections, they host for internships. This 3 ways to reach the current crop of learners in undergrad and beyond. It's near peer interaction, so getting them around younger people that can get them excited and exposed to things. Leveraging technology, which we've already talked about, but we want to keep leveraging online platforms to even hybrid models where they're getting in-person instruction and then moving to online for some portions. That's proven to be highly effective. So near-peer interaction, leveraging technology, and the last part is experiential learning. These Gen Z, iGen, and millennial kids learn through doing. So our internship programs, they're phenomenal. They make us very unique. We need to expand them. And our alums that are out there, what you do to give our young men and women experiences in the fields through internships is remarkable. We very much appreciate it, so we need to keep that going. Okay, next question. What are your plans to build the Norwich footprint outside of the Northeast? What do you need from the alumni to promote Norwich? So we ran the numbers. This year we had 12% were legacy new admits, which is wonderful. It's up from 8% the previous year. But we have to get us out of the Northwest. I already talked about it, the Northeast rather. It's just the numbers aren't going to be there to support the school. So we have to be national, international brand. I want to look at some international partnerships. The last 5 years, I've been in Iraq, Afghanistan, Turkey for a pretty long time, Korea for a pretty long time, and in parts of Europe. So there's opportunities for partnership out there. I want to go expand those. That'll be part of the footprint internationally. But nationally, we got to get in the West and the Southwest. Those are the populations that are growing the fastest. That's where everyone from the Northeast is going. If we can leverage the brand recognition of people that have moved out of the Northeast in those areas and bring them back, we have a lot of opportunity there. So how can the alumni help? Keep telling everyone you know how great Norwich is. And when you need me to come out and talk to a school or a group of young men and women in junior RTC, Civil Air Patrol, and the Scouts, sports teams, sports clubs, what about drone? Right now, robotics teams and drone racing teams, those are probably the kids we should be looking at because they understand where their future's headed, and they're bringing a skill set and passion. So what can you do as alums? Tell me when I need to go out and talk to folks, because I will go. It's just like sports, I will go recruit our students under your advisement, and just use me however you can. How much value do you place on successful collegiate sports programs as a recruiting tool? And my commitment to properly resource sports programs and athletic facilities to attract students desiring to participate in competitive sports programs. It's a recruiting gift that keeps going. Men's ice hockey is a great example. So look, I'm fully committed to athletics. Family of athletes. I played sports my entire life. My son's the goalie at the Air Force Academy D3 team right now. My my youngest daughter was a 4-sport varsity winner in 3 continents while I was dragging her all over the world in high school. So we're fully involved. I am personally fully invested in athletics here at Norwich. It is critical to the campus experience, right? So my daughter went to a huge public school in New Jersey with 63,000 undergrads, D1 program in the Big Ten. And she went there for that experience. Absent the sport experience she's getting there, she probably would have chosen somewhere else. So Norwich is D3. We have wonderful programs across the board. As you say, ice hockey, and let's just say it, men and women would have won the national championships during ice hockey. It would have been phenomenal. And it breaks my heart for the athletes and the coaches and the staffs of those teams that didn't get the chance. But I went to the games when I came here for my campus visit. Beautiful environment, amazing facility, high level of competition. And the other thing about sports, and me expressing my commitment, we have to build higher levels of resiliency and grit into these young men and women. Few things do that better than the crucible experience of being in the Corps of Cadets, especially rookie year, but also on the athletic field, right? How to win with grace, how to lose with dignity, how to be a good leader on your team, how to be a good follower, a good peer. So there's lots of lessons from sports that we need to keep active here, and we will. I will figure out ways to continue that excellence. There's a question about, and I love this question, offering free tuition for students whose parents' income is less than $80,000. Would Norwich University consider free tuition based on parental income threshold? The short answer is I love that model. Schools with very substantial endowments can do that. There are some colleges that don't have to charge tuition at all because their endowments are so hefty they never have to charge tuition again and be fully solvent. We're not in that position. It'll be my goal to grow the endowment substantially. It'll be one of my priorities. It's not the best time to start such things in the middle of a pandemic and what it did to our economy, but I'll work on that. And obviously, as alums, I'm going to need your help in that. We could probably figure out a formula where the endowment has to be to this level when we can start offering free tuition based on income threshold. Or like a lot of Ivy Leagues do. Princeton, for example, does their tuition based on family income. It's just a formula. If it's lower than a certain amount, you don't pay anything. If it's higher than a certain amount, you got to pay your fair share. But there's good models out there, but our endowment's good, but it needs to be great for us to do a program like that. So I will look at it, and we'll see how far we can get together. In the recent past, there's been an issue of insufficient housing with 3 students assigned to rooms that were designed for 2. What action will be taken to eliminate the issue? So we're going to keep evaluating that. We're doing square foot evaluations for living space in the dorms, et cetera. The more internships, more international and national kind of distance learning experiences we have to send our young men and women out for some experiences. It reduces the stress. We'll figure out a way to make sure it makes sense and not overburden and not make it unfair for the students squished into a room. COVID's going to drive some very creative housing answers for us, and we're getting there. We're actually generating a lot of very out-of-the-box solutions, and we'll publish those as soon as we're able to. All right, very specific question here. In actual dollars, what is the amount of debt that Norwich is now burdened with? What is the current income versus expenses of Norwich? What is incurred endowment of Norwich? Okay, so as of last month, our debt is at $77 million, and that is appropriate related to our operating budget. And actually, in the industry, that proportion based on operating budget is considered to be very healthy. So we're good with debt. The current income versus expenses, we're at $103 million in revenue and $100 million in expenses. And the endowment estimate right now is about $205 million. That's the same we were April of 19. We hit 215 before the pandemic. We were looking pretty good before the pandemic hit. So we're actually very, very healthy, especially in regards to the what happened with the pandemic, what it did to our investments. There were some peer institutions of Norwich that lost almost 80% of the value of their endowment. So we've recovered almost to last year's levels, which is really phenomenal. It speaks beautifully to our board of trustees that does investments and our auditing board and how we're managing the funds for Norwich. But we're in very good shape. Some schools will probably have to close because of their investment strategies of their endowments. We're in the top quartile of institutions right now in the country as far as endowment health post-COVID. And now we're repositioned to recover aggressively as hopefully things start recovering. As they do, we'll be in a position to look pretty good. But, we're talking about fiscal health. Obviously, alumni support is going to be critical to maintain our healthy situation, and the students and I personally and everyone in this room and on this campus appreciates everyone's support. What is your plan to distinguish Norwich from the other 6 military colleges and make Norwich the senior military college of choice? So, we can spend an hour on that because I feel like we already are the best one. And if people don't know, I feel like we are, but people might not know. So I'm going to make sure people know, right? And I'm going to increase the gap between us and number 2, and that's how it'll be. We just won 2 national certifications in cyber, which is one of the fastest growing academic fields in the country right now. Cyber and leadership studies are the 2 fastest, and we have 2 national certifications, which is unheard of. No one else has that. Our innovative nature, our interdisciplinary approach to academics and the campus experience. Others have things like it, but but not like us. And we'll continue to kind of trumpet that everywhere. Our excellent programs in nursing and cyber. I already mentioned cyber, but let's not forget about nursing. The professions of today and tomorrow. The need of the nursing community in the United States will be met partly by this university in a very visible way. We'll yell that from the rooftops, right? We also have a very unique regional alignment. We're the only senior military college in the North. The other ones are all in the South. Good or bad, that's what it is, but it's a dynamic that makes us unique that I can start leveraging for benefit. All right, this next one is also fairly specific with I think a clear answer. Has Norwich considered adding solar or wind power to reduce the university's energy footprint and lower cost? So we've looked at this very aggressively because, I'm a very green person. I'm right on some political issues and social issues. I'm left on some issues, and in this one I'm pretty aggressive. Geography will drive the cost effectiveness of this. I didn't know this until recently, but Vermont is the second cloudiest state in the country. Solar's probably not practical. We will not get the return of investment. And because of the way we're situated in the valley, we just won't get enough sun to make that viable. Wind also, we did the full evaluation. It'll take over 50 years to recover even the initial cost of install for wind power. So we feel very good about what we did with the plant. We got off oil. We went to other to alternate sources. We're doing very good. We've saved a lot of money. We probably reduced our footprint substantially. So we're doing good. The number one cloudiest state in the country is Washington. So there you go. We're two. In case I hate when people say we're number 2 or 3 on something, and well, you want to know who's number 1. Well, there you go. Washington State 1, Vermont 2 for cloudy. But we will continue to evaluate it. Part of the limitations is the current state of the technology, right? So as technology for solar and wind improves, maybe it's more cost effective, becomes more affordable, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, it's just not practical or pragmatic, and we would not get the return for many decades, and even then we probably wouldn't recover it. How will you make Norwich successful while not destroying traditions? So a couple different versions of this. Look, we have a great brand reputation. We put out a highly effective product by our graduates, Corps Cadets puts out elite leaders and always has. Some of the best leaders our country has produced has come from this school. And we're not going to destroy those traditions. We're not going to mess with success, right? Now, there are traditions, and there's really effective ways that we train men and women here, and we give them the Crucible experience and all those wonderful things that we will continue doing. But there are traditions that make this place effective, and then there's some really bad habits that we can't let continue. And I think some of you might be chuckling right now that are alums, because I've already heard about a lot of them, and it's always shared with me with a level of fondness, but also with an acknowledgement that we probably shouldn't do those things anymore. So, there's crucible experiences, and then there's hazing, right? There's challenging our young men and women, and then there's mistreatment. There's mistreatment, but we'll make sure that we do it the right way. But we're not abusing anyone, right? But the crucible will remain. And I'll tie how we do stuff here to relevancy to active duty, if we're talking about the Corps especially, or government service, or what the world is actually like. Again, I'm still on active duty, right? I have recent operational relevancy, both in how we train people and how we execute in combat operations and in peacetime garrison. Even in the special operations community, it seems like everyone wants to be a special forces person, a Green Beret, or a Marine Recon these days, but very few can. But even in those communities, hazing and those things haven't happened for a very long time. So we have to make sure we give them the tools to be successful leaders in complex organizations without resorting to that as their default. So the Rookdom, the Corps Cadets, our traditions here will remain. We just have to make sure it's still effective, and we'll evolve those as we need to. Someone says, as a volunteer coach, only 2 left and we're going to go live, and they're stacking up. I got to talk faster. Goodness. As a volunteer coach on campus, what are your thoughts about how student club activities should be funded? My son's the club hockey goalie at the academy. The school pays what they can, and then there's an expectation the young men and women have to kick in the rest for a club, right? We'll follow that standard. That is the higher ed standard. But the university will support as much as we can, and then we'll let the students kick in the rest. Okay, last one. Like most colleges, universities, we must remain in the constant state of fundraising to meet operating expenses, but build the endowment, modernize facilities, attract decent talent, etc. Alumni account for the high percentage of donors. Year after year, following the $100 million bicentennial, alumni may be experiencing fundraising fatigue, especially given the impact of COVID-19 in the economy. What's your plan to continue that? So really going to rely a lot on all of you for new ideas, for new contacts. I want to increase our corporate sponsorships and corporate relationships, increase our public sector alignments. I want to get out. There's certain sectors that I think we've underused for investment in Norwich, and through relationships like hosting us for internships, but bringing technology on campus that we can help vet for them and help develop with them and give them some new ideas. I think that's going to be an answer. So really, we're going to continue to count on alumni, and when you have giving fatigue, you can give us contacts, and then we can start working that together. So as you're out there around the country, start thinking about things. There was a pharmaceutical company I almost closed a deal with before I left my last job. I'm going to try to drag that here, but it probably wouldn't be the classy thing to do. But as that was as a result of an alum bringing someone to us that wanted to find somewhere to invest a concept, and we were going to do it. So all of you have great ideas. Please feed the alumni office with folks that we can talk to when I can go be your closer. Okay. I'm sorry, that's a lot of questions. I wanted to answer them all, and now I'm going to get through the stack of sticky notes. I'm going to talk fast, but try to answer your questions so we can stay on schedule, okay? How did you know Norwich was a good fit at what point of the interview process? So here's the deal with that. I was actually a finalist for a few other jobs when I was asked to apply to Norwich, and I said, holy cow, Norwich? Of course, yes, because I have an operational history and an alignment with the school, and I knew it would be a perfect fit. My only concern was that I'd be offered another job before this search was complete. But as soon as I became a finalist, I pulled out of two, and was yelled at for that. But I'm glad it worked out. And it is people like me with my background. This is a dream job. So believe me when I tell you, I'm going to stay for a pretty long time, as long as you'll all have me, and we're going to do great stuff together. But this is not a good fit. This is the perfect fit, and I'm blessed, and I'm very grateful. What are we going to do about the cost of college? Tuition above $50,000 is unattainable for the majority of families and exceeding inflation. Agreed. I'm paying for one. Thank God my one kid got into a service academy. Growing the endowment to improve our financial position so we can give greater discount rates is going to be one of my priorities, okay? If we can stabilize tuition or maybe decrease it in the future, I would love to be able to do that. We'll head in that direction. We have operating expenses. Part of the reason college gets so expensive is because the expenses of operating the college are substantial. And this COVID thing, folks that have not done a responsible thing, it's going to force them out earlier. I concur with the unaffordability of college, and I don't want to drive our students into debt. Also a personal passion point. Growing the endowment to higher levels and securing additional scholarships for our young men and women, or partnering with agencies that can offset the cost, will be another priority of mine. How will you grow diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts for students, faculty, especially under the current atmosphere? Great question, and we're already moving out aggressively on it. DEI, of course, is the buzzword, and it's being handled very poorly by most schools. They're doing it wrong. The way they do it actually drives further wedges and pushes people further apart. We're going to do it here very strategically and very clearly in a way that brings people back together again. Right? I mean, somehow inclusivity, some people believe it means only for one group and the rest can be pushed out because of past issues. We can't do it that way. We have to have, when we say inclusive, that means we have a family atmosphere here, that open dialogue and responsible communication is embraced and encouraged, and we will do that. If you're asking about hiring and bringing in folks, we're going to actively recruit. And Dr. Affinita and I talked about bringing some folks in, and I don't want to just do an open advertisement and see who we can get. I want to go find the best people and steal them and poach them, and whatever bad word you want to use. I don't want to sugarcoat it. I want to go find the right people and bring them to Norwich. So that will be the plan. Sorry, I'm going fast and furious. It's a stack. Jeez. Okay. Do you think Norwich's criminal justice program could help find solutions for current issues of policing? Absolutely yes. Criminologist by trade. By the way, I've been a chief of police 3 times, sworn law enforcement for 24 years. I believe in the mission of policing in the United States and a democratic society, and it's our flagship program by many measures, and we will be part of the solution, and we will get out front very quickly. Will Norwich consider opening an auxiliary campus in D.C. as you have in Denver? That is a spectacular idea. Now, we have other ideas of other geographic areas. We will. We need to get Denver up and running and self-sustaining, and once that happens, we will look at additional storefronts, as we'll call them, right? We'll have more presence. Poor Bill Clemens sitting down at the end of the table, and his eyes just got wide, but he's ready to go. He just wiped the sweat off his brow. But we'll get Denver going, and once it's self-sustaining, we'll look at additional areas. D.C., parts of Texas are at the front of my list of places we should be targeting. You're killing me with your handwriting here.
Sorry.
Oh, does send students home at Thanksgiving. Students will be COVID free. Are you concerned about sending the virus home with students? Please explain the rationale. So we're going to bring them in for the on-campus experience. They'll be tested in some capacity before they come. If they have it when they're here, they will go into quarantine. So we're not going to, somebody pops hot, we're not going to hide them and send them home to infect their communities. What we're going to do is bring them here for the on-campus and residence experience. We're going to make sure they're healthy, that to get the most of the full term. And the last few weeks after the Thanksgiving break will be done through a very robust online education experience, and then they'll finish it up. But the alternative is to, I think this question implies that we're being irresponsible. The other option is to send them home for Thanksgiving and then bring them back and do the whole thing we just did again, because they're coming from all over the country. That would be irresponsible and not cost effective and probably not safe. So when we see how the virus arcs in effective rates or in infection rates, we will see how we can bring everyone back safely and securely in January and see what's happening there. How can alumni best support you now and moving forward, including recruitment? Go find areas, well, a couple of things really. Find groups of students that we can come out and really target to convince them to come here. Find areas for partnership, financial partnership especially, who can host internships and who can invest in the school in a way that's beneficial for the company, but they can, endowed chairs is a simple example, right? If Company X can give us a gift of $2.5 million, we can actually endow an academic chair here. We can encourage cutting-edge research in certain areas. We can further develop corporate relationships through a lot of your great works as alums and tell them you should invest in Norwich, and I'll go out there and I'll talk to whoever I'm supposed to talk to. I'll come out and play golf, I'll come out and have lunch, whatever you need me to do, I'll come out and help foster those relationships. So find the relationships that we can use to expand. Plans to get out on the road to meet alum parents and friends. Great question. And I had this great plan all summer of traveling. And of course, then COVID hit. I was supposed to be on the road this weekend. I have my elderly father is alone in Florida. He's sitting in a La Quinta with nothing to do and no one to talk to, and he's getting very depressed. I was going to come visit him for Father's Day. Had plane tickets, but had I gone, I would have come back Sunday and then been on quarantine for another 14 days, and it might have affected our ability to open the campus. So I will FaceTime with him if I can get him to work his phone correctly, and then we'll have a nice Father's Day that way. But, this is not the way I planned on taking over, but it is what it is. As soon as we're able to, I will get on the road aggressively to meet alumni, parents, and friends. And Dave Whaley is going to put me on the road pretty soon, and I'm going to meet everyone who's willing to meet with me. Norwich After Next identified the brand needs to have more national visibility. How will we increase our marketing footprint? We have a lot of very specific plans that, for the interest of time, I'm not going to go through. But in response to your question, please hear me that we're going to have very aggressive marketing, increased presence on social media across platforms kids are actually using. I've learned that kids don't use Facebook anymore. TikTok is the big thing now, but also Snapchat, Instagram, etc. I won't tell you my kids told me about Facebook because it was depressing for me as a 50-year-old man. But it is what it is. We will get out there and be more aggressive. We have a wonderful communications department with great ideas and great capability. We're going to increase that aggressively. Okay. Jeez. Okay, what kind of talent are you looking to draw in from your own network to add and improve our contacts, faculty, administration? Well, I can't say that because people start putting walls up around the people I want to grab. But, I have a wide network in higher ed just because of my time doing that. Wide contacts in military, and also recently transitioned military with good academic credentials. A lot of people, when I got picked up for the job, were very congratulatory, and a few actually have already asked, hey, so do you need a so-and-so here? So I got to see what some of our gaps are, and then I'll go out and actively recruit for unique talent to bring them in for that. But I will leverage the full network. Norwich edition of security and cyber majors have been positive. How about expanding into public service areas like emergency management? Absolutely yes. That's a growing field that will definitely get our attention, and we can leverage the excellence of our current programs, as you have said. So security and cyber majors, but also our criminal justice, obviously. So there might be a logical alignment. I actually started the Homeland Security Master's Program at a college. That was my job. but we leveraged the criminology program as the foundation for it, and it worked out great. So I like the idea, and we will look at it. Top 3 growth opportunities. Got to go through those quick, but look, the greatest field that's emerging out there right now is getting into quantum computing, and it's going to be a heavy lift, but we can't build a quantum computer here, but we can partner with Google, IBM, and other companies that are building them. Maybe do some coding here, get into the ethics of it, historical applications and future trends. There's things we can do to add to what's happening with quantum. If we want to get involved with the government, we got to get pretty savvy on space pretty fast. A lot of investment's going to be in space. Well, how can we influence that? We're not going to launch a rocket from Northfield, but we're going to be able to influence probably, like we already did with the inflatable solar panels. There's things we can do from here that will be additive. Cyber is perpetual, right? The hypersonic community, that's becoming one of the great investment areas. What about drone technology? That is going to be huge. I mean, we could fly drones from here, and the swarm. You want to blow your mind? Look up online on YouTube and watch swarm technology with drones. That is an emerging area of warfare that's going to be critical, and we need to get involved. Future of RIC training. What do you think the current state of our training program? I was looking forward to seeing it live this summer. It's working, I'll tell you that, because I've received the product of it. I'm very impressed. I need to see how we're going to be able to pull it off. This fall is going to be very tricky, but we're going to do it as much as we can in a responsible way to keep the governor from allow him to stay open. But I'll tell you, what we're doing is working. Excuse me. What we're doing is working. I don't want to screw around with it. I need to evaluate it, see how we can make it a little bit better. I'm a multiracial student that faced challenges, and you prepared me for life. While there were a few minority students when I was there, what is your plan for increasing diversity? It's going to be active recruitment and advancing the brand. And look, there's a delicate area here, right? Because targeting students from underrepresented communities and bringing them here, if they're not prepared by any fault of their own because they came from a district that was not serving them well, is not going to be good for them. So I want to build in ways that we can grab young men and women from the communities we need to serve and prepare them more effectively so they can be successful here. So I would love to talk to you directly. Obviously, I don't have your name, but if you will reach out to the alumni office and arrange for you and I to talk, I would love to communicate with you. We need to do that better, and I will aggressively go out and recruit. And I don't want to I don't want to promise something, but I want to get involved with some elite organizations that are pushing for underserved communities to go to elite universities. There's the I Promise community coming out of Ohio. That's LeBron James's funding, which is an absolutely beautiful program that is designed exactly the way an effective program should be, where they're going to bring young men and women to college that would never have the opportunity, but they identify them early to prepare them for the rigors of college. I want to get involved with them very early, and I got to figure out how to make that contact. So please get involved. Whoever just wrote the multiracial student question, please get with the alumni office and arrange for us to get on the phone together soon. Hopefully you will continue to leverage the active duty general officers that are alums. Will you keep the GOFO advisory panel? Absolutely yes. And just by total happenstance, I was tromping around the mountains of Colorado with General Bouzier last year while I was in the process for this job, and he was thinking about No Words to Me, not knowing I was a finalist for the job, but we've already communicated a few times. The GOFO advisory panel, I think, is invaluable and wonderful, and something we can leverage very aggressively to advance the brand amongst various communities. But yes, we'll continue it and expand it. We're down to our last 2 questions. Can I do it in under a minute? How will the university promote the values of service for civilians as well as Corps students? Look, I said this in my campus visits and in my other public comments. The civilian presence is not a threat to the Corps, and the Corps is not a threat to civilians, right? We want to keep the 2-to-1 mix. That's our goal. We're getting a little bit out of balance, but we need to go out there and sell it a little bit better, I think. But as the Corps is elevated and the civilians are elevated, they're moving in concert to be elevated together. They should be complementary and not in competition. Our Corps cadets kids have to learn how to work with civilians, right? And the civilians have to be able to appreciate what the Corps brings to the university and what it brings to society upon graduation. We've got to make them work in concert. I don't think they should be a threat to each other. I'll make sure they're not. There is a tension there that's obvious. I've been told it's been overplayed. I've been told it's been underplayed. I need to go see it and feel it for myself. But the promotion of values to our civilian students. So when a Norwich grad comes out of Norwich, an employer's not going to care if they came out of the Corps or they came out of civilian experience. They're going to have a Norwich diploma. And we got to make sure that diploma carries equal weight regardless of how they came out. The Corps cadets will have a wonderful network that they can tap into, and a very unique experience that's really not replicated anywhere else, I don't believe. And the civilian students, more experiential learning, more leadership and character education, those kind of things we need to address with them. But it won't be in competition with the Corps. They will be moving together in concert, okay? If we have more questions later, how can we contact you? Go through the alumni office. We'll do this again. It's a good segue, thank you for that, to my closing comments. But, this is a really scary time for our country and for the world for various reasons. And Norwich has got to be part of the solution that we're going to be. I'm going to meet all of you in person. We're going to do this again at least once more this summer, and I think we'll do this periodically throughout the fall semester too, give you updates how things are going on. I want to get on the road. I'm going to see you all. So as far as how can you contact me, talk to the alumni office, please, and let them know when you're ready for me to come out and talk to a group, whether of alums, of potential donors or partners or potential students, whatever. Keep them posted, and Dave Whaley and the team are going to keep me well managed and on the road, and I'll go out and do mixed use purposes, okay? So look, closing comments. Is there anything else burning coming out of there? Okay. We can't do this without you, any of it. I've heard the 3 W's and the 3 T's. All of you are contributing in some way, right? 3 W's, wisdom, wealth, and work. So if you're sharing your wisdom, if you're able to donate at whatever level you can, and your good work with the institution, those are 3 W's. 3 T's are time, treasure, and talent. Really the same thing, different words. But all of you are contributing in some way, and we're very deeply grateful. And I'm going to ask more from you. And if you can't share your wealth or your treasure, we'll look forward to tapping into your talent and your wisdom, okay? So, but we can't do it without you. We really appreciate you helping us advance the brand and helping us grow. So I'm going to be on the road quite a bit once restrictions are lifted, and I will look forward very much to spending time together. And given the state of things in our country, I will continue to sign off with Norwich Forever, made famous by our wonderful President Emeritus Schneider. But I'm going to preface it also with Norwich Together, because as our society is being pushed further apart, I want to help bring it back together, and starting with our internal community. So in closing, I will say thank you very much for a wide volume and wide diversity of content for questions. Thanks for participating. Thanks for joining. Please share our thoughts with your friends. And I'll just sign off with Norwich Together, Norwich Forever.